I'm with Carlos Saba this week, chatting about cultural laws. Cultural laws are beliefs that sometimes you don't even realise that you have. It's like having a script that's running and informing your life and influencing decisions that you make. And the thing about cultural laws is that sometimes they support us by providing useful boundaries, but sometimes they hold us in a pattern that we didn't even choose. So becoming aware of cultural laws is a really fascinating process that can support you to make changes where you want changes and bring you closer to who you truly want to be in the world. So Carlos, good morning.
Good morning, hello.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing about how cultural laws have impacted your life and the work that you do to help people break free from cultural laws. But first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are today and what it is that you do now?
Maybe I will start off with a summary of how this journey has been, and I would say a journey of following my nose, a journey of not really planning, actually thinking that I was planning, but actually not really knowing exactly which direction things were going to take me. And to illustrate that, so I was very good at school, quite well academically qualified. I enjoyed school in that my mindset was suited to that structure. I was good at maths, and then that led me to physics because I was interested in how things worked. I was really fascinated about how the world worked, and actually not even just the world, the universe. And one of my memories of being a young teenager is I had this poster on my wall of the universe, and it started off with the Earth and the moon revolving around it, and then it expanded to show the Earth revolving around the sun, and then that turning into the Milky Way, and then that turning into the local cluster, and turning into and basically the sensor perspective of like, actually, you're a tiny dot on the planet Earth, which is not even a dot within the world, and that interested me. And so I just wanted to do stuff that interested me, and so I ended up doing physics, and then I did a PhD in physics, and then I realized actually I learned how much I didn't know by trying to learn more, if you see what I meant. And also that life did not suit me. I discovered, while I believed academia was something I was good at, it didn't suit my personality. And so I didn't know where to go next. My father said, well, you should go into the financial sector and make lots of money. And I instinctively knew that I would die. My soul would die within that environment because there was nothing that excited me there. So I just wandered aimlessly for a bit in terms of, actually, for about a few months doing some teaching. And then my wife's best friend invited me to go to a party at her web design agency. It felt like fun. I talked to the boss. She says, do you want a job? I said, yeah, no problem. I had no idea where that was going to lead me to. After 4 years, I was the director of the company and decided, actually, I don't like this. So Lawrence, who I've known since primary school, was a designer in the web design industry as well. We both decided, actually, we could do a better job ourselves. I had the skills of a programmer, a technical person. He was a designer. We kind of wanted to build a business that suited our lifestyles rather than making lots of money. So again, without any big plans as to what kind of business we were going to create, we just wanted to do work that we were happy with people we enjoyed working with, and work that made us jump out of bed. And we started a web design agency from our bedrooms, and we did that for nearly 12 years. And then we discovered actually what we wanted to do was help other people build the right businesses, because we met too many people trapped in successful businesses. Businesses that were making lots of money but actually were killing their souls because they didn't know, they lost their identity within that structure. And particularly in the startup world where they were chasing the big bucks, they wanted to be the next Facebook, Twitter. It was all about this allure of the big exit and making a massive impact in the social status. And actually, when you ask them, actually, why are you really doing this? They really paused to think. And so we thought, actually, we need to catch people earlier before they start their big businesses and avoid essentially losing themselves because they're following someone else's path, or a path that other people have defined as successful. And that's where the Happy Startup School came about. Is like, how do we teach people to actually, A, build businesses in an age of uncertainty where things change all the time, but B, using happiness as the anchor point and not a business model.
You said something really, really fascinating there, which is you met a lot of people who were trapped in successful businesses. And I can imagine that that's true of people that not only have their own businesses, but just have a career, that, you know, that there might be people out there who feel trapped in a successful career. What exactly do you mean by that? And what do you think are the cultural laws that are running as a script that might cause someone to be trapped in a successful business or career?
So for me, the idea of being trapped is you're playing the wrong game and you're scared of changing that game. And so if we think of the game having a set of defined rules, winning is the house, the 2.4 children, the lovely car in the driveway, the holidays every summer to somewhere in the Med. And that's the game, the well-defined game. And people know how to play that. And it involves finding something that you're good at, maybe not enjoy, but you're good at. Someone will pay you a regular salary for that to happen. And then there's a well-defined structure of professional progress within that game. And then you get more money, you have more things that you need to pay for, and so you try to work harder to get more money. And then that's just this ladder of success that is, then at some point you feel like, actually, where does this lead? And why is it so hard? It's like, it's taking so much energy and so much time. And time is the commodity that you can't actually get back. And so then that's the question. And you think, actually, what is it that really makes me happy? Because you've acquired all of this material wealth and success, but there's still something missing. And to a certain extent, the reason we have the luxury to actually question whether we're happy is because of the fact that we are materially comfortable. But at the same time, that feels like a paradigm that's slowly ending. It isn't something that can continue ad infinitum. And there's, I think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a model that's well used and well known, but it feels like we've got to the stage where we are conquered our physical needs and needs for safety, arguably. But there's something else. What is that? That's different for everyone, I think. That's the thing I've discovered. But we feel these external measures are the ones that we follow because they're easy to measure and they're easy to compare.
Tell me a little bit about the Happy Startup School, because that is your current venture along with Lawrence, your business partner. And it sounds to me like the work you do now with the Happy Startup School is fundamentally about helping entrepreneurs to break free from cultural laws that have defined how we've done business in the past or how we're doing business today. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
It's interesting. I've been thinking about this in terms of, and this is what I've learned, I think, over the past few years of the Happy Startup Schools from some really interesting people who look at work in a different way. We tend to look at businesses and our work from the outside in. So we look at, what is the impact we're going to create in the world? What is the value that we're going to create for people? How are we going to save people money, save people time? How are we going to help others? And I'm going to flip it because I think the Happy Startup School didn't start from there. It started because Lawrence and I needed it. We were looking for a community, a way of gathering, particularly in the professional world, which wasn't just based on status, measures of financial success or market dominance, or even just knowledge. And a lot of the time we'd go to conferences and it was people who'd done it, been there, telling you the 7-step plan to success, exchanging business cards with people who are trying to sell you the best next step for your business or a service that's going to help you level up. And there was no real authentic connection. And we hated networking because it felt like it was just basically a capital market, a place to go and sell yourself rather than actually get to know people. So we were looking for our own definition of what success meant in business. And the Happy Startup School didn't start as a business. It started as a declaration. We started off with our Happy Festo. This is what we believe business is about, because that's how our agency was built. We consciously, and we maybe get into this later, we consciously didn't want to scale up our agency into something bigger. We were happy with something small because we didn't want to be managers. But that wasn't the right definitions of success compared to other agencies, because they were buying their own premises, they were being global in their impact, they were scaling up the size of their headcount. And all of those things just scared us because they felt like burdens to carry rather than things that you could shout about. And ironically, when you talk to some of the founders, it is the pressures of success. So the Happy Startup School started from our own need to find a way of working that suited us in a way, and then to be able to connect with other people who believe like that. So we thought we were crazy. We stuck out this thing, the Happy Festo, and it hit a chord. And actually, there were people out there who said it in a different way, who articulated it in their own words, but fundamentally, it was about happiness at the core and an authenticity at the core of what you do.
What beliefs do you think that you have running as scripts in your own mind that have enabled you to do all of the things that you're doing? Because you just said of yourselves then, we thought we were crazy. And in my experience, that idea of thinking that you're crazy and, you know, who's going to follow us, who's going to want this idea, that can often be really limiting. But what I'm hearing in you is that was almost a motivating factor. Yeah, we're crazy, so let's get out there and let's do this. Are you aware of any particular beliefs that you have, you know, cultural laws within yourself that have supported you and actually driven you in all of this work?
So one thing that I've learned from my father, he was essentially self-employed, and one thing the lesson that I've always held closely to me is like, the world doesn't owe you anything. It's up to you to create what you want from it, and I'm trying to say get what you want, but essentially it's down to you. You can't sit there and wait for something to happen and come to you. I think another belief I have is, and I think this comes from that lying in my bed staring at this poster of the universe. There's much more to life than a paycheck and a retirement. There's wider, more powerful forces, for want of a better term, at work. There's so many experiences and people and vistas to see and to be in. To have that narrow definition of what work should be was scary, or it just didn't feel like a place I could live. And so I think instinctively I just felt life was just this kind of adventure. And this is where it's a bit of a challenge as well, because another level, there was this, and this is interesting how there's what people say and what people do. And so my father would always say, you know, get the steady job, you know, find the right employer, make sure you can plan for the future in the right way. But the way he lived his life was much more adventurous. He started off as a shepherd boy in Sardinia, leaving school at the age of 11. And he left that kind of small island to become a waiter in Switzerland. And Switzerland went to Germany. From Germany, he came to the UK. From the UK, he taught himself 5 languages and then became a tour director and traveled the world showing people the wonders of the world. And that, for me, was actually, you can carve your own path. That's the thing that I believed in. But also, I think from an early age is like, and the way I phrased it as a young kid was, whatever I do as a job, I want it to be something I love. Or the way I said it is, I want my hobby to be my job. So if it's something I want to do in my spare time, why can't I make money out of it? I didn't know what that meant at the time. This was like, you know, late 1980s. But it was that feeling is that I can't just do something for the sake of money. It needs to be something that stimulates me and excites me and makes me feel that there's a meaning to it. And so those are the beliefs that I think have carried me through this kind of eclectic career path.
With the entrepreneurs that become members of the Happy Startup School, what are the kinds of beliefs that you notice that they have, that are the reasons that they're stepping into membership of being the Happy Startup School to learn a new way of being an entrepreneur and a new way of doing business? What are the kind of beliefs that you notice that they've had, that they're trying to break free from?
So in terms of the beliefs they are coming with or breaking away from, I think it's very similar to what myself and Lawrence saw as limiting beliefs. This idea that there's only one path to success, this idea that work and life are separate things. There's your work self and there's the rest of your life. And also there's this belief that essentially there's a finite number of types of jobs in the world. So, at a very basic level, you can be a doctor, accountant, lawyer, and that's it, engineer. But actually, it's a continuous, infinite spectrum of things that we can do. And I think the reason why we've grown, or our message has grown more in this particular age, is because the increase of knowledge that we're able to tap into, and the awareness of what's possible, which is down to the internet. There's a belief in possibility now. I think that people there's a choice to do something different. We can make a choice to do something different. But there's also fear of failure. That's and that failure is bad, and failure and this is my interpretation, but I believe this is something that a lot of people have, is failure equals shame. And so to fail is societally and culturally a bad thing to do. They were looking to do something new, realizing to do something new means to potentially do some things badly and to break things. And so trying to step into this new way of thinking that actually it doesn't matter if it goes wrong. What matters is I've tried.
And what challenges do you see people facing in that process of breaking free? Because they're all quite powerful ideas. The idea that failure equals shame, or that failure is bad, the idea that there's only one path to success and that work and life are separate things. They are all really quite deep and powerful ideas that can really lock you into a pattern of behaviour in your life. So what challenges do you see that people face as they step out of those beliefs and do something different? They step forward and they do make a mistake. They step forward into not being an accountant or a lawyer or an engineer. What's your experience there?
I think the biggest challenge for a lot of people is it's just so heavy. This concept of I need to reinvent myself, or I need to challenge my limiting beliefs, so they're really powerful, useful concepts, but they're really heavy and they challenge our identity. And so in our own way, at the Happy Startups, we're trying to make it a lot more light. For us, it's about fun. It's about enjoying ourselves. These are deep things and difficult things to deal with, but we're not trying to tackle them head on. The way we approach things is much more about how can we find enjoyment? How can we take ourselves less seriously? How can we do things in a way that kind of circumvents this big hurdle of, I need to understand the meaning of my life, to how can I just make friends? How can I have experiences that are new for me? How can I tap into that inner child, in a sense, that playful self? Because actually, these limiting beliefs, these cultural norms, they're just, I would say, they're just like layers on top of what you are really, is just a nice, simple, fun-loving person. But what you've done is, over time, acquired these layers of beliefs that have obscured that inner child, in a sense, that inner optimist, that ball of ultimate potential that could have been anyone or anything, but because of circumstance has been pushed in a certain direction.
So are you effectively saying that by breaking free from those kinds of limiting beliefs, your advice is don't focus on changing those limiting beliefs because that's where the heaviness is? Are you saying that actually your focus is just on finding enjoyment, following your nose, making new friends and having fun?
I believe that's the first step. For me is the first step. Some people hit it head on. The purpose of our lives, our inner purpose, is to just enjoy what's happening right now. So for me, having a great time talking to you on a podcast, that's the only thing that matters right now. That is the only thing that I should be focused on and concentrated on. Maybe after this, I need to concentrate on the strategy for the Happy Startup School. That's the only thing I should be thinking of. But the trouble I think most people have is they're living in the future and in the past right now, thinking about what's next or what's happened. And that isn't our purpose. There's an outer purpose that we can embody and we can make happen and manifest things because of them, of visions we have for the future. But that's a different thing to actually the true, if there was anything that was important in life, was just enjoy what you're doing right now.
What advice would you give to someone who is listening and going, yeah, this is sounding quite good. I quite like the thought of this, that all I need to do actually is enjoy this moment right now. But someone who maybe is more used to thinking about what's happened last week, processing that or getting concerned about that, combined with what's happening next week and, I'm a little bit worried or I've got a plan for this or whatever. What advice would you give to someone who wants to step into that quite enticing space of all I need to do is enjoy this moment right here?
Yeah, if I knew that answer, I would definitely put the Dalai Lama out of a job. I cannot share my own thoughts and my own efforts around this. I've always been a warrior for all my life. And I think it stems from sitting there, again, lying on my bed, looking at, this universe is massive. Where is it going? What are we doing? So how do we become more present? So this is something, again, I've only learned recently. There's the whole practice of mindfulness and meditation. And I've done martial arts, Kung Fu, and specifically for nearly 25 years. Part of that has been learning how to meditate for a good 15, 20 years. Never really knew what meditation meant. People say, empty your mind or don't hold on to thoughts. And I was like, I can't. They come. I hold on to them. They're lovely. So actually one practice that I just learned recently, which I found really useful, particularly when I wake up at maybe 5:30 in the morning, worrying about what's going to happen next, is to flood your mind with feeling. So how does the bed feel below me? What noises can I hear outside? Can I hear my wife breathing next to me? Are the kids awake? What are all, basically flooding your senses with what is happening right now. And I found that a great way to essentially kick out the thoughts. So there's that whole thing that you can only remember 7 things at the same time. So just fill those buckets with sensation and feeling. And that's just purely just feeling, just really sensing. I'm sitting on my hands now and I can feel my hands being squashed by my thighs. I can feel the carpet just below my feet. I can see you and I'm just looking at your eyes close and open. And it's not trying to predict what to say next. Not trying to think, okay, what's the most powerful, interesting thing that I could say that's going to really engage the listener? It's actually letting whatever comes out, comes out. And then when it's thinking about the future and what's going to happen and how things are going to work, it's like you can't control that. You can worry about it. But if I'm going to control it, if I'm going to actually be intentional about it, then I think about that now. And I forget talking to you and I go off and I start doing some planning and I start sketching things out. And that's the only thing I think about. So I think it's really flooding yourself with the present. And then when it comes to thinking about past thoughts and identity and things like that, it's kind of like another way of thinking about it, which I again discovered recently. Is when you're born, you have no language. You're just a bundle of feeling. That's all you are. There's nothing else. You have no sense of future, no sense of past. I think the reason why we can't remember our births, we had no language to actually encode that into our brains. And then over time, we make associations. We make associations with smile means happy, warmth means safety, breast means food, good grades means good person, more money means more success, looking fashionable means increased status. But these aren't us. These aren't things that we had when we were small. And we go through this whole journey until we get to the other end, where we're just about to die. You go back to the square one again. You're just a bundle of feeling. You don't care about the future. You don't care about the past. You care about every single second right now. So I would say to achieve that, free yourself from that sense of cultural weight or expectations of the future. is to get to that stage of near death, for want of a better term, right now. Because it's the feeling of, this is what I need to be feeling and experiencing, because this is the most important thing to do.
That's quite deep stuff. And what I like about it is that, the reason I've called this podcast Messages from My Younger Self is because of that truth, that when you're your younger self, you are much more in the moment and you're far more instinctive, and you have less intellectual capabilities. So you just are, and you just do follow your nose. You just do cry when you're hungry or when you've fallen over and hurt your knee, and you just laugh when you're happy, and you just skip when you're feeling joyous. Is that fundamentally what you're saying?
That's, I think, a beautiful way of putting it. I think it's interesting though, because I've resisted this idea of we should all just be children again. Because I thought, you don't want to be immature. If a bunch of children running the country, that'd be a nightmare. But I think at the fundamental level, what you're saying there is that we don't want to be shackled by these norms, that we shouldn't feel our feelings, and we should always try to hold on to the future. As children, it was all about just trying to enjoy the moment and follow where your experience and your body takes you.
What is the biggest belief in society today that you would like to change?
Everybody has it better than I have. I think that's the fundamental problem. If we didn't know what other people were doing, we'd be quite happy most of the time. We'd be quite happy with our lot. But then you see someone more successful, someone more rich, someone more important, someone having a nicer time on holiday than you. And then suddenly what you're doing is rubbish. So I think if we could somehow fix that perception that we need to measure what's happening or the quality of our being against the quality of others, then I think that would help.
Given everything that you've learned and experienced in your life, all the lessons along the way, what would you say to your younger self?
Don't be in such a rush. Don't be caught up with achieving something or making something happen. Trust that you'll do the right thing and just keep questioning.
Do you think you're living life now as your younger self would have designed it?
So this is an interesting. I have a diary that I kept when I was between the ages of, I think it was 13 and 17, mostly filled with girl angst. But one of the things I remember writing down was like things I want to achieve before I'm 30. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to have a black belt, and I wanted to be a millionaire. And I also wanted to go into work wearing a t-shirt every day. I got a PhD. I second degree black belt in Kung Fu. Not a millionaire. But I do go to work in a t-shirt every day. And so what I think that's taught me is that external definitions of success weren't going to be achieved because they were the wrong ones. And the reason why the other internal ones, I consider internal things that happened, is because I love learning. I'm very passionate about being in my body and expressing myself through my body. And I wanted to be always relaxed. These are my internal values. So am I living the values that I had as a young kid? Yes. But I think part of that is like, and this is why I was jealous of people who wanted to be doctors, engineers, and lawyers. I never knew what I wanted to be. I was always seeking. So I'm still seeking. And I think that's I just now accepting that I don't know if I'll ever get where I want to be because I don't know. And I don't know if I'll know what I really want to do. But what I've learned is just follow my nose, check in that it feels right, and then trust that the right thing will happen.